talk more, for those who are not familiar with the history of Indonesia, the modern history of Indonesia back to the 60s, what the U.S. role was?
The United States provided aid, weapons, money to the military so that they could carry out this genocide. They may have been involved with masterminding or conspiring to create the events that were used as a trigger for the genocide, the excuse for the genocide, which was the murder of 6 army generals by other members of the armed forces. But all of the CIA job documents pertaining to this period in Indonesia remain classified, and some were pushing to have those released. Senator Tom Udall introduced a sense of the Senate resolution on the day of the film's release in Indonesia, saying it's time for the United States to declassify and to take responsibility for its role in these crimes and to declassify its records. We know what we already know is damning enough. We know that, for example, embassy officials were compiling lists of thousands of names of public figures in Indonesia, U.S. embassy officials, and handing these to the army and saying, kill everybody on these lists and check off the names as you go and give the list back to us when you're done. I spoke to one of those men, a man named Robert Martins, early in my journey here, and he talked about how this was crucial intelligence he was giving, but these were public figures, and the United States had already funded and trained the Indonesian army and advised the Indonesian army to be deployed into every village in the country. So they were useless for national defense. They were deployed for internal repression and mass murder. And if you are like an octopus with your tentacles reaching into every village, of course you know who a local public figure is, a journalist, an intellectual, a trade union leader, who might be opposed to the military government. So this wasn't intelligence, this was incitement. This was saying, the United States saying, kill everybody. We want this new regime to stick. Kill every possible opponent. The U.S. also provided the radios, deliberately, that allowed for the purpose of the military coordinating the massacres across the vast archipelago of 17,000 islands that Indonesia is. And in The Look of Silence, we also see an NBC News report that celebrates the genocide more or less right afterwards. And we see, most chillingly, that Goodyear, a major multinational corporation, is on the rubber plantations where they're harvesting the latex for our tires and our condoms, that Goodyear is using slave labor drawn from death camps to harvest their rubber. This is, of course, what German corporations did on the periphery of Auschwitz a mere 20 years earlier. But here it's being broadcast on American TV and celebrated as good news, as a victory for freedom and democracy, which should give every viewer of The Look of Silence pause, leading us to wonder whether this was really done, whether the real reason for U.S. participation was the struggle of the so-called free world against the communist world, or whether that was a ruse, a pretext, an excuse for murderous corporate plunder.